All right, we are back for another episode of Your Where With Who. I'm Kate, joined with Usman, and we're super stoked to have Mason on the pod with us today. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
So, there's many things that you do. In reviewing all your biographies and everything online, going through your discography, you are a creator first and foremost. You're a singer, songwriter, producer, and you're Philly based. We know you're a Philly boy,
Absolutely.
born and raised.
Yeah. Just got
Tell
my
us,
Eagles tattoo.
yeah?
Wait,
Like I bleed green, bleed green.
go. Let's go. I
Yes,
love that. Oh,
yes.
let's go.
I mean, you're gonna mesh perfectly with Oos then, because Oos
Yeah.
is one of the biggest Birds fans I've ever met in my whole entire life.
All right, we're starting off right. We're starting off perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. Well, tell us a little bit. The perfect place we love to always start is how did you get into music? What brought you to the space that you're in? There's so much that you do, but what drove you to music?
I started music pretty late in comparison to a lot of people in the industry. Um, I was in college and people were stealing clothes out of the dryer. And so I just like sat with my laundry and for whatever reason, instead of doing homework or studying, I started writing a song. And my aunt had given me like this journal as a gift, and I started writing a song in it, and then before I knew it, I filled it with songs, and then I just never stopped filling notebooks with songs from that point forward, and I just kept writing and writing and writing, and to this day, I just that's all I do.
Wow, that's incredible. Is it something that, I mean, obviously you said it started with laundry. It started with just sitting waiting around. Does the creative urge just come to you randomly? Is it a daily thing? How do you get into it?
At this point, to call it an urge would be would kind of separate it from who I am as a person. I can't go a day without being creative in one way or another. I write music, but I write like scripts and books and stuff like that. So I'm usually just in my own world. I've always been an imaginative person. I used to paint and stuff like that. So I've always been like on the creative side. And then once I started writing music, I really don't go a day without writing at least a song, but
Oh, wow.
usually, you know, multiples. It's this thing that's just become a part of me. It's like, you know, people that work out every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't really necessarily need an urge to push me. But urge wise, I would say like if I go a couple of days and for whatever reason, let's say like, you know, you had family stuff or something that's like more on the business side, then I will kind of get like this itch on my neck, like, oh, I need to create it, you know what I mean?
Can't go a couple of days without it.
It's bad. It's definitely my biggest addiction for sure.
I guess it's a good addiction to have
Yeah, I
though,
would say so too.
right?
It's a good
Yeah, it's
addiction.
better than most of my other addictions. So it's yeah.
Yeah.
This is the lesser of all the evils.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Interesting.
So are you writing for yourself or are you writing for others as well?
I'm predominantly writing for other artists, especially over the past couple of years. I've focused mainly with my production company called Sacred with a K. We do all around production writing, like we do records and albums from start to finish. So last year alone, we did like 13 different projects, and that was just like the female pop R&B slash dance world. And then we did a bunch of other projects. I write a lot of stuff for sync licensing, so stuff that's like in commercials, the film, video games, and that stuff will like have my vocal on it, but I'll use like a different moniker so that way, you know, it differentiates it from stuff that I would put like my art on, like something that I would consider my art, because if you're gonna put your artist name on it, it should be something that ties into you as a person. You know what I mean? So in a way, it's like I'm not really writing for me. But really, this year I just got back into artistry. I started making some records that I felt like I would enjoy doing live again. So I always like put out a little bit of music under my own moniker, but I I just do it for fun and just like kind of keep like the small audience of people that I have around me. But now I feel like I might go back to the stage, start like promoting myself as an artist more, because I have some songs that excite me about being an artist again. Being an artist is a
Yeah.
huge undertaking. It's way different than being a songwriter and producer. Uh, and I know what it comes with. I've been an artist for a really long time, and I've had my ups and downs, and it's not something to be taken lightly. So I've been really falling back from that, but now I'm kind of in the right headspace to do it.
Yeah, completely. I think it's interesting how you mention like all that it comes with. I mean, there's so much to the creative space, and I can assume making your own music and also creating for others. But can you just dive a little bit more into what you mean by what it comes with? Like, what are the facets that you experience in it?
Well, first of all, I would say let's start with the stuff that I don't like. Social media.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Social media would be the first thing that I don't like. Uh, for one, like I grew up in like an era where there was some mystique to artists, and part of the allure was like we can't see everything about their lives. I think that some people really use social media well as a tool. But for me, I have a real story to tell, and I would want to tell it in a different form. So I like putting a camera in my face. My life is interesting, and a lot of people say that all the time. It's like just turn the camera on and like show what your life is like. But it feels
Yeah.
more precious to me than that. And I would like want to have control over like the medium of it coming out. So that would be the number one thing that I know is an undertaking as an artist, which now I've just been storing up enough content to make high quality posting the forefront of my social media presence. And I have enough of a network to do marketing in kind of a different way. I built a bunch of back channels to kind of use as cheat codes when I'm officially back as an artist, like, just as far as press goes. And
Yeah.
when you have a little bit of a resume and a little bit more of a network, you can kind of lean on that to not be the person that's like, here's what I'm eating today. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that that's
These
just not,
more
I
random
really
videos.
Yeah.
respect, you know what I mean? I don't want to hate on like social media posting. It's just not what I do. So it's just not my strength. It's not and I don't have a desire to do it.
Mhm.
I don't even like have a desire to be famous in any kind of way. I've like killed that like at a very early age. I just want my art to reach more people, and if it doesn't, then I did a huge disservice to the muse, that gave me that gift. So that's part of it. As an artist now too, you have to be your own kind of manager. So there's so much business work that comes into it. Uh, and as like the person that does a lot of the administrative work for my production company as well, a lot of it is just like behind the computer or on phone calls and in meetings and looking at contracts. And if you don't want to pay, $500 an hour to some lawyer, meticulously going over those contracts, making that edits. I have some experience in real estate contracts and music contracts over the past like 15 years. So, I can do it, but I hate it. It sucks. No artist wants to do that. Like I'm like, yo, I'm a painter, just like let me paint.
Right.
Uh
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's all of that. And then live shows like touring and stuff like that is a pain. Like rehearsals, that stuff is this was just a lot of time and energy where put into things that like have like a more grandiose uh digestion of your art, when I could just write a song and like record it, and then the art gets digested right there. So the payoff is also bigger because who doesn't want to be in front of like a big crowd and have like get to see their faces. But you kind of just like wish you could fast forward to the end result. Um, and it's just a lot of it is you got to be on. You got to be on all the time. How you interact with people is really, really important. I 100% don't act like my normal self.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Yeah.
I'm not really into it. And I'm a people person. I am definitely a people person. I'm not like
You're so outgoing.
I
Like
know.
I
I
would
don't
never
yeah, I wouldn't say I'm an introvert by any means.
think.
It's not that. But
I get
I
it.
don't know, man. I'm
I
like,
get
I got a little bit of Keith Richards in me, like, you know what I mean? And those days of like not giving a fuck are like going over. I'm sorry, I need to ask if am I allowed to curse
You're
on
No,
here.
you're
fine.
good. You're good.
You're
Uh,
good.
but, but yeah, like, like I like, I prefer the more wild version of artists because we are wild, we're crazy, our brains are going, like, you know what I mean? I'm like lucid dreaming at night, like I can't come back into this reality and just act all normal. Like,
Right. Keeping it organic to who you truly are. We've
yeah.
Yeah.
spoken so much on the podcast, specifically, like you mentioned, social media and that piece of it. So many different creatives and artists that we've spoken to are like, that is such a pain point. It's so difficult to manage. You want to focus on the actual artistry and putting out the actual works that make you fulfilled in what you're doing. And they're like, nope, gotta record my like
Yeah.
1 a.m. a day. I gotta put something out there to engage with my people. So I could see that be taking detracting in a sense. But I also agree with you that at the end of the day, you're in a business too. You gotta operate as a business and you gotta do those reading through the contracts and doing all that fun jazz. Can't imagine it would be all that fun to pay your $500 an hour off to a lawyer. So
Not at all.
you got to break out your highlighter and do it
Oh my
yourself.
God.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's not like I'm not working at a factory either. So like, I mean, I
Hmm.
don't, I hate to complain, but if I were to say, some things that I don't like, then that would be it. You know what I mean? The preference. But everybody's got to do things that they don't like, unless you are extraordinary at your art, and then you get to a point where people are like, just let that person do what they do. You know what I mean? I would love to get to the point where it's just like, okay, like this person writes books and scripts and songs that are so ethereal that some there's a team of people that are like, we need to get behind this person so that way he can spend all this time doing that. That would, man, that's my dream. That's my real dream.
That's the goal is to get all of the, I guess
Yeah.
you could call it like more, it's the less sexy side of things. It's like the more
Yeah.
administrative,
Yeah.
like day to day kind of
All
things
the
that you just gotta
operations.
knock out.
And take the money. Like honestly, take like you know what I mean. Like I would gladly give half of my money to just do the thing. Like to
Hmm.
just do. I don't even care what it ends up being. I don't care if I'm George Lucas of Star Wars. Like somebody's got to build the Millennium Falcon. Like you know what I mean. I'm not gonna do that. Pay them. Like I don't care. You know what I mean. And I cannot wait until I'm just like here. Just do everything I don't want to do and just make money off of me, please.
Oh my God. That's a dream. So, yeah.
Goose Mom, were you gonna jump in?
Yeah. So, I want to talk about a little bit about your songwriting process. Seems spontaneous, as you mentioned, but you also mentioned that you write every single day. Um, is it just song related, or you also mentioned that you write books, scripts as well? How do you balance all of this, like, I guess, forms of art that you're doing consistently?
So let me let me start with this thing that I learned, which is the most valuable information I ever got as a writer. Because a lot of the times people that write in multi-mediums or multi-genres don't know this. But like writing is rewriting, and we should never be afraid of being bad writers. We should be concerned with being writers first. So a while ago, I realized like when I pick up the pen, proverbially, I'm doing it to finish what I start. So I stopped like jumping around and being like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start on the script and then write the song or whatever. I'm going to bring it to fruition. However, even when I used to paint, I would start up in this corner and then I would just dive in the middle right here, and then I would go to this one and go back. So I do jump around between mediums, but when I have an undertaking like let's say like a book or a script, like my most recent thing was like a pilot for like a 10 episode series, which I did all of this writing and a bunch of different episodes and everything to make sure I got this pilot perfect. I'm gonna make sure that I go back and get the pilot done. Um, but throughout that, I'm inspired constantly by all different things. It could be a memory of, a time in high school. It could be a conversation that I have with a barista. It could be a dream. A lot of stuff comes to me in dreams. Um, it could be just working with my team and, some of the instrumentalists like, playing keys or guitar, something like that. Guitar and keys really, really speak to me. Like every time I hear just a couple of chords, I'm like, wait, I got the song. Uh, which makes everybody angry sometimes happy. Um, but but yeah, I'm inspired by a lot of different things, and I try to I try to channel it. I feel like it's just out there in the ether, and all I'm doing is just plugging in and getting that power to go through me into creating something, and then that creation can go into the world. And now, especially with songwriting, I couldn't I couldn't even describe how much ease like songwriting is for me now. Like it literally is might as well just be me plugging into something. Like I tell people all the time, it's just like I feel like I'm not writing the songs, that I'm really just channeling the songs. There's been times when I've written like entire stories that within like 6 minutes, and I'm just like that story came out in a song form in 6 minutes. I couldn't, if I sat here and tried to think of writing a story for hours, I wouldn't be able to get it out like that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it's kind of like this meditative state that I tap into to allow to kind of just like open the flow of that channel. And then, I wish I could master closing it up a little bit more. But sometimes, yeah, like sometimes you're just around and like a song hits you and you gotta go and get it done. Or voice memos is my best friend. I have like thousands of voice memos, um, and this phone and every other phone before it. You got to get it down. Sylvia Plath used to say that she believed ideas were bubbles and they were floating through the sky, and if you didn't pop them and get the idea, they would float on and hit the next creative person and they would get it down. So she would show up to parties with like pencils and pens and stuff like that and just be ready to, write down her ideas at any time. And I believe that if you pop enough bubbles, you realize when somebody else popped the bubble that was meant for you. And there's no feeling that's worse than that. When
Yeah.
somebody like the Grammy Award goes to and you're like, I wrote that song. Yeah, I just didn't get it out there.
Craziness. It's so funny that you mentioned this. I feel like so deja vu. We were really just having this conversation. I think in the context of actually Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
And I think he says something really similar as far as the creative process and like how we're all very interconnected energetically. And that if you have something that's meant for you and you don't act at the right time, it's just going to keep moving and somebody else is going to have that idea come to them.
Yeah, he's big on that, and I believe it. I believe that creativity is just like a consciousness field that is a part of the group consciousness of all of mankind and maybe even beyond. Um, and we're just tapping into it and taking that information and when it funnels through us, it's funneling through our lens of how we see everything in our life and the time that we grew up and with the bringings that we have and the experiences that we have, and that's what makes it a unique perspective because it is a communication with you. Uh, but there's a version of that can get to somebody else. I don't know if you guys read his book, but Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Way, is like one of it's so good.
It's a really good one. I've definitely gotten through some of it. I got to get through the rest of it. Usman, did you pick it up yet?
I
We
did
were
not.
trying to get him into it
Yeah.
recently.
It's really good. It's one of those books though you can read bit by bit. It's like the Tao Te Ching or something, like you know what I
Mm.
mean. It's got its wisdom. It's a lot of wisdom.
A lot of thoughtful nuggets of information around creativity. He's taking notes. He's
Yeah, I'm
writing
gonna
it
write it
down.
down.
He's writing it down. I know that. It's a
Yeah, you should
classic.
check it out.
I want to talk about a little bit of your musical like influences. I think I read that Black Thoughts to Tame Impala to Lil Baby were some of the artists that you draw inspiration from. How does those diverse artists kind of shape your music tastes, your writing style, and your approach that you take to creating, I'll say?
When I was like around 14, I guess maybe like 14 or 15, I I was obsessed with rap. And all I ever knew was rap and R&B because like, you know, the- my mom used to put like the oldies channel on and I would like listen to Eric Clapton and stuff like that. And I had like some kind of exposure to it, but as far as like in like my formative years, I was just listening to um rap and R&B. Like that was those were the CDs that I was buying and stuff like that. And then eventually I would be like streaming and watching music videos online and my friends were listening to this band named Keen. Do you know Keen? Keane. They have a huge record called Somewhere Only We Know. It's like if you have a minute, why don't we go?
Yes, I do know
Africa.
that track.
That's like it's probably like a
Yeah.
billion streams or wherever anywhere. But that band is a huge band. Just they're not as big in the U.S. as they are in the UK and in a lot like all the like Latin speaking countries like South America and stuff like that. So they were playing me these songs and I was like, this is the core. I'm listening, mind you, I'm listening to Eminem and Biggie all day. You know what I mean? And then this soft band plays, but they got tickets to go see the concert. I'm like, I'm gonna go see. And I went to go see that concert and I left and I was like, I'm messing up. Y'all, what band? Give me all the bands. And then from then forward, my taste was extremely eclectic and kind of never went back. I'm just digging into everything, and that's when I kind of went backwards and was like, wait a second, you used to like go to your dad's job and be listening to Journey and stuff like that in the background, and you had this one moment where you loved the Beatles, and uh, I just opened my palette, and I was just able to kind of absorb everything. And then it was kind of the perfect time to be a sponge is like 16, 17, 18. You know what I mean? It's just like go nuts, go to every single concert that you can. And I think you you have like this hunger as like a teenager that's for music and for culture and everything is just different. You'll never get back to that level of hunger, I feel like. Like even professionally, obviously I'm digging into a ton of different music and I'm checking it out. But I don't have the same feeling as I used to feel when you're a kid and you're like, I'm going to see a band.
Yeah.
There's nothing crazier than that. So it started with that. It definitely started with that. I would say Eminem was my earliest influence because he was my influence before we started making music because I tell this story a lot, but um, I was like a poor kid that got like scholarships and financial aid to go to an extremely expensive school for high school, and I didn't know like when you're broke, but and you're like, I mean, like I would like grew up in like a one bedroom apartment, like where there was like a hole in the bathroom that you could see into the apartment above you, like in the ceiling, like you know what I mean, like, and it was like me, my brother, my mom, my pops, you know what I mean. But I'm in an apartment complex, like so we got we're in the one bedroom basement apartment. Maybe somebody else got a two bedroom. Some of the kids you go to school with got a house, but you don't really know. And then you meet kids whose families like sell helicopters and you're like, oh, like it was like a punch in the gut. You know what I mean? I moved into my dorm room with my roommate's family, like had the third largest estate in all of Niger. And so like they literally had pet lions and they're coming in like it's so small, like this place is so like this room is so small. And I was like, I get my own bed, like, oh you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so and so I'm on my way to like the mall in like the little vans that the school would like cart out. And my friend Alex, I tell her I'm listening to Eminem, and she's like, "You ever listen to old Eminem?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "Here." She gives me a headphone, and I put it in, and she plays me the song Rock Bottom. And in that song, he has like these verses that's just talking about how angry he is about how poor he is and how much he's struggling financially and how much is on the line and how much he's looking at other people who have what he wants. You know what I mean? And he just feels like he can't get it. Well, maybe he should just rage out and get it. You know what I mean? He's like talking about, my daughter's down to her last diapers, got my ass hyper. I pray to God answers, maybe I'll ask nicer. And you're like you just it was so deep, and I just listened to it over and over and over again. And it's something that I carried with me ever since. I didn't even know I was making music. I was gonna make music in the future, but I realized that one of the main purposes of art is to make people feel like they're not alone. You know what I mean? When you go through a breakup, you want to hear that breakup song because it makes somebody else is going through this. They know what it's like. Hopefully they made it through it. Maybe I can too. Um, and so that would be like the strongest influence that came through to make me to kind of help this eclectic taste have some kind of midpoint that I can attach to. Because I'm writing country records, I'm writing pop records, dance records, R&B, rap, everything day to day to day to day. The core is how do I help connect to the artist and what their story is, and make sure that that story is relatable to an audience listening to it. And then obviously music wise, you hear a Michael Jackson song, and you're like, oh, what did they do with that bass line? And you know what I mean, and apply it that way. But I think the more important thing is to make sure that you're having a connection, and if you're focused on a connection, then the genre doesn't matter as much, and the rest of the parts, the rest of the parts will follow.
That's interesting. It seems like with all the work that you create, you dabble in a little bit of every genre. Like it's not just one thing. And even in listening to some of your music under your own name, I'm curious how you would even describe your style. Like to me it feels very smooth. You have just such like a smooth vocal. You're very futuristic feeling.
Mhm.
Like how would you not even classify yourself? I don't think it could be maybe classified as just one thing, but how would you describe it?
Thank you. I wish I had a word.
Doesn't
One of my
exist.
friends,
We
he's
gotta
like an
make one.
artist developer. He was like, you need to find a word to encapsulate what you do because people don't get it and they won't get it. And I don't believe that. I believe that a lot of people say like the audience is stupid. And I get what they mean when they say that, but I think it's a way overused statement to be like the audience is stupid. I think that people are ready to like to digest a bunch of different, genres and feels and just connect with the artist as like the center point. I mean, we go to festivals and we go see, 21 Savage and Billie Eilish and you know what I mean, Florence and the Machine all at the same time. So it's like whatever. The ear is ready. I would say like I started using the term like hyper artist just because I just felt like um the way that I operate in multi genres and multi mediums is kind of just an accelerated version of like most of the artists that we've seen. Uh, and I'm faster paced, kind of with everything. Like as far as I have a huge catalog of unreleased stuff, a huge catalog of stuff that I make with other people, and it's only a matter of time before the world catches up to like the speed. And so I think hyper, like when you think hyperdrive, you know what I mean? Like you're just thinking of energy, acceleration. So I've been using that as a term, but it doesn't really stick. You know what I mean? I wish I could just describe it in one word. Sometimes it feels like psychotic, for sure.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes I'm like, how does this end? Like I feel like I'm one like concussion away from, like painting with blood on the walls, you know what I mean? Like I
Oh no.
Yeah.
but but yeah, no, I don't think I could put it into like a single word. I like smooth. Smooth is cool. But I have a lot of songs that you would hear and be like, that's not smooth.
I'm sure that's true. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. I feel like you
Yeah.
draw inspiration from so many different places that it's only natural. that you would have so many different styles and you'd express yourself in so many different ways. And I think to your point about energy, that's kind of how energy expresses itself.
Hmm.
You used the word muse that I think was really interesting because I feel like, a muse can be anything in my eyes. Like you said, it could be the conversation that you have with a barista, it could be some random whatever's going on in your day to day. I mean, that must I guess if the muse finds you first in your day-to-day life, that must change the trajectory of what you're working on.
Yeah. Um, well, a lot of the times I'm not alone. So like I'm with my crew, and so we have a task at hand, and that guides. So it's just like that's what I'm going to open up to more. There are times when I'm going through really serious things in my own personal life, and that will kind of overshadow and push everything in one direction. But I've had some of the saddest times in my life where I made the happiest song ever. Uh, and like it helps kind of helps you out. It's like therapy. You know what I mean? You find your way out of it. Um, so like when I was using the analogy of like plugging in. I still get to pick which outlet to put it in. You know what I mean? So and so if I have a job at hand, I'm gonna tap in there. There are times where, and I would say when I'm asleep is probably the most intrusive. Like there are times where I just dreamt like an entire movie, and I need to like put my voice memo on and say as much as I possibly can. Like, a couple weeks back, I had the weirdest dream where I dreamt like the whole opening to a TV show, and the thing was like I heard the theme song. This has never happened to me before. I heard the theme song in the dream as well. So the voice memo is like me humming the theme song and then telling the story, and then I hum the theme song again at the end. And this is like at 5:15 a.m. And I just like turned that off and went back to sleep afterwards. So I guess that would be like the most intrusive of
It's
me.
My God.
Music
fully
can be
unconscious. It's crazy.
unconscious, yeah, right. That would be that's when the news would be most intrusive. Or sometimes when you're in that room and everybody in the room is against you as far as what where they think the song is going or where they think the song should go. And then it's an art in its own as a producer to guide the room if you know that the idea that you have is is it. Very rarely does that happen because you have like chemistry with the people that you work with anyway, and we're all kind of on the same page. But very rarely the muse will be saying, no, 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 it's the other way. And then it's an art in itself to get the team and get the people that you're in the room with to seeing, to working with the muse that they don't see. Um, but it's a chemistry, it's a harmony, to work to connect to that creative energy, and so you're working with it. It's not something to be like dealt with or fight off.
I'm interested to know in making works for others versus creating your own art under your own moniker. What differences do you see in that, if any, really? Or is it a similar process to you?
It's a huge difference because people people handle their art differently. I have some artists that like I just make all of the music for them, and then they just mute my vocal and keep it in the background and study it, lay it, and that's it. And
Yeah.
then we have artists that are also writers, and so it's a co-write conversation where we let the chords dictate the mood of the song. Usually if it's like in a major, then it's happier. If it's minor, it's sadder or whatever. And then a lot of the times I like to start with a conversation and know what the artist feels from the music. Because if there's a disconnect there, it's gonna show. People are gonna hear it and they're gonna know. They might not be able to describe why it's not working, but it'll be obvious that it's not working. And you got to be able to have a different process for each person. And you have to have a different process for each person on different days. Sometimes people come in and they're pissed, you know what I mean, or they're moody, or their friend just died, so you kind of have to just be adaptable and pivot. A lot of the times, one of my favorite ways to do songs now is I'll have the artist go on tangents, right? I say like treat your or treat our group note like it's your journal and go crazy. Just say everything that you can about whatever situation or emotion that we're tapping in on or scenario that we're tapping in on. And a lot of the gems come out that way. It's like people just like just letting it free flow and spill out how they feel about the scenario, and then I just go back and help them structure it. One of the things that I teach like any artist that I work with or any writer that I work with is people think songwriting is all about rhyming, and in reality, like a toddler can go hat, cat, mat, bat. Like they understand rhyming. You should say what you have to say and then make it rhyme. Because that's actually the easier thing. It's really, really difficult for songwriters to do that. Like as far as not amateur, but like beginning songwriters to do this, because there's the two things seem so married. And being able to reverse engineer what you're doing is a difficult thing for any task. And so part of the reverse engineering is like you're really just saying something and making it rhyme if you have any substance. It's not really the rhyme. It's not built around the rhyme. So uh, that that part of my process is important. It's like to make sure that I'm helping the artist to communicate what they're trying to say. But then sometimes it's like they're like, it's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to sing what you're saying, and I'm going to feel it. And I'm like, all right, cool, we do it that way too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. The with the vast catalog of like unreleased music, how do you decide, yes, I'm going to put this out for people to hear? No, I'm going to hold this for later, put it on the shelf. Maybe I'll come back to it and rework it. How do you make that decision?
That's funny that you asked that because like we were just having a conversation about that yesterday and today. Right now, the next couple songs I'm putting out are just songs that are in our catalog that we feel like there's not many people that would be able to pull it off anyway. Like they would listen to it and be like, I love this, but we're like we have a low chance of selling it. You know what I mean? Because selling and making music for other artists, like that's what pays the bills. And stuff that like has my voice attached to it where it feels like I would actually still do this song. So I just picked out like a group of like my next 10 songs. And then after that, I stumbled upon a song, like a sound recently, over like the past year and change that I've been calling modern Americana. And it's like an influence of like emo music, like classic rock, some like alt stuff, some punk stuff, some grunge, and kind of mixing it, some country, and kind of mixing it all together. And that's gonna be the stuff that I plan on like playing live. That I'm like excited about. The stuff that I really wanna, make the backbone of who I am as an artist for the at least whatever I release first. Uh, so the sound that I found, that's what I'm gonna attach to, but we got to just pump out some content right now. Like I got to just be pumping out content regularly. So I'm just going to be shooting content that's a bunch of just random records that are just really dope and I feel like the world would love and connect with, but aren't like tied into necessarily one sound, and just kind of like prepare the people that are tapping in for like the unpredictability of where my music could go, and then show them the complete opposite of that, like a very defined sound that like is something that you like kind of never heard before.
Yeah. So wait,
Would you go ahead?
no, I wanted to see when can we expect that? Those releases?
So I'm gonna release songs every week for the next like 10 weeks at least. And probably like sometimes I'll just release two songs because like at this point it's just like about just like pumping out music, sharing music, getting some of the music that's would just sit on a hard drive forever, that shouldn't sit on the hard drive forever and could have life, or could connect to somebody or could make them feel like they're not alone. And so I'm gonna be putting those out once a week. And I feel like probably around June will be when I start putting together like more full length music videos and tapping in with more of my network, it'll be fairly obvious when it's like, oh, like I'm really trying to like I'm really being the artist version of me, because it'll be like I'll do like more festivals and stuff like that, and be associated with like bigger brands, bigger influencers, just making the phone calls of like, hey, like this is time for me to like really get out there.
Yeah.
So I would say around June. I was just looking at the calendar. I think we're like 10 weeks out from June, and then like I'll start really focusing on that stuff that's the modern Americana sound.
Is there more prep work that goes into getting ready for that, getting ready for these releases, aside from, tapping into the network, which is so crucial?
For me, it's it's not. It's kind of like riding a bike. I I had just years where I was just playing like more gigs in the week than I was not playing gigs in the week. Like years of that. And when you have that under your belt, uh performing is just you just go back to it and it just feels like nothing. I mean, the preparation will be in rehearsals with putting the right band together. That's going to be like the main part of the preparation. But even that, now the people that I know from my backup band is rocking. So so even that is like easier because you know what to do. You've done it before, so you can just kind of go back to that place. Getting the show tight and ready is going to be the part. But I'm not afraid of approaching it like a comedian. You know how like comedians are like we're working the joke until we perfect it. I'm not afraid of approaching that because I like the raw shows too. I like shows up there where I like shows that are super polished, like where it seems like every hit and every step is planned out. But I like getting there. I also like, messing around and talking with the audience and laughing with the audience and bringing up current events and maybe freestyling a song and stuff like that. I like doing that too. So I think the preparation was is that I needed to do was up here, and I did that already. I feel like I am a kid get like a young kid getting dragged to his haircut. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And then afterwards, they're like, oh, I look nice. I forgot I enjoy getting my hair cut. So that's kind of how I feel right now when it comes to artistry and getting ready. It's really just a mental game.
Super interesting. When you talk specifically about like the difference between kind of a more polished, planned out show, if you will, versus like the ones that are a little bit more on the fly going with it, do you determine the way that a show is going to go based off of the energy of the crowd, or what makes that decision for you?
Not not as much as you would think. I mean, because you're gonna know how many people are gonna be at the show usually. What kind of crowd is it based on the other people that are gonna be at the show, and then you're in rehearsals, and so depending on how many rehearsal hours you get in with that group of people, uh, I like to be on the fly. I like to like even in rehearsals to be like, oh, would it be cool if we do this? And so then it's pre-planned in that kind of way, and then you don't want to go off on like a crazy tangent. But for instance, like I had a show the night that XXX died, right? That shifted the whole mood was weird. Everybody that day was like a little bit more sullen. Um, and I was just like at the time I was listening to him more than any other artist. And so like, I switched the whole mood of around of the show, and it's to this day is like one of the most memorable shows I've ever done for me personally because I realized how much uh, an artist can influence a moment. Like, you know what I mean? It was very very strange. So there's things that can drastically make the switch, but for the most part, you kind of know what you're gonna do ahead of time and interpret it. And then when I'm saying like something that's more polished, I mean like how much are we worried about what everyone's wearing? How much are we worried about like lighting, background LEDs, stuff like that? Are every hit like is every hit like really, really, really planned out? Like, are we doing breakdown outros, breakdown intros? Can we switch the song order on a whim? Can we drop a song and add it, or like or add a song back in on a whim? That kind of stuff I like to build up to.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Where was that show that you did after X had passed away? I'm curious.
It was at this really small like intimate spot called Raven Lounge in Center City. I don't know if you guys ever been there, but it's it was like it was a really small venue and everybody's like like crammed in and just like having drinks, and I was playing with my band and just kind of, no, it was just like the energy in the room was just really, really palpable. Um, I really like the really, really small shows and then the really, really big ones. I like the in-betweens are like, I
No
like it.
middle ground.
Yeah, not for the most part. Like, I like it when it's really intimate or like stadium, arena shit, you know what I mean?
That was another question I was going to ask you is I know you mentioned towards the beginning of our conversation how like you don't necessarily care about like the fame to come from it. Like I get such a sense of how genuine you are in regards to your art through our conversation, and I think it's just about the art that you put out speaking to people and connecting with people, which I think is a beautiful thing. But where do you where do you see yourself growing to? Is it gonna be, do you have these big headline festivals that you want to do? Or is it, the more intimate shows? A little bit everything.
Right now, I'm into visualization a lot,
Hmm.
because I feel like I had a lack of that. And it just the reason why I want to play these big shows is because I have some songs that are gonna pop in those big shows. You know what I mean? I have this song called "Reaching for the Shelf" that I know the live version of this song is like meant to be a stadium song, and
Yeah.
so like I just want to feel the energy, and I want to give the energy of that song to large groups of people.
Yeah.
So I am starting to visualize that. Like I am starting to be like, when I'm meditating to picturing myself back in front of big crowds, because I've kind of, it's funny, people that really, really care about fame, there's such like a bouginess thing about it. But then
Yeah.
there's also the reverse of that, which is also just as disgusting. Is just like, I don't even care about fame. Like I don't even like, no, nobody needs to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah,
find
totally.
myself being both at different times. So I'm just trying to like not really, you know, uh, let myself get pulled in one way or another in that regard. Um, but I do see myself on the festival stages. I do see the recognition for the art. Uh, and I really, really, really I need to get to making some of these TV shows and movies. I got to do it. I have to, cause like, what am I doing? Like, there's times where I'm just like, what are you doing? You're following it. You got so Prince has this interview where he talks about once you make the art, that's it. That's the whole thing. But he was also Prince. So
Right.
so it's like
Fair
I
enough.
heard that and I attached to it and I like that. And I was like, yeah, like I'm an art, because I've also like every time I did something that like people around me would be proud of, it never felt good. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Or it was fleeting, or like there was a part of it behind the curtain that was disgusting. You know what I mean? Or something like, it was always tainted. And so and then my own like ego maniac side of me is like, yo, don't feed that. Like don't feed into that fame part. But right now it's not about like the recognition necessarily, but really the recognitions come so that way I have the freedom to then bring more ideas into the world and push more ideas into the world and have more access. Um, that was the plan for a while, and the plan just deters because like when I had the opportunity to take everything to the next level, I didn't like the person I was. I couldn't like look myself in the mirror. Um, and I had a decision to make. Like, all right, do you want to work on who you are as a person, or do you want to just like let your career pop and address it later? And I chose to tap in and get like a little bit more spiritual. And when I did that, it was a long detour, but now I finally feel at the place where I can rectify the two. by taking the art as far as I can and still uh, not being an asshole to an extent.
Yeah,
To an
To an
extent.
to
extent.
understand.
I have asshole tendencies still.
I mean, doesn't everybody? To some
Everybody
capacity
does, right?
at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does. And I'm trying every single day to be more kind, for sure. Like that's what I'm praying on. When I wake up and I pray in the morning, I'm like, be more kind, be more kind, be more kind. You know what I mean? If
Absolutely.
somebody's wearing that jacket that you like, tell them that you like the jacket. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
If somebody's wearing those shoes that you like, tell them that you like the shoes. If somebody has, you know what I mean, beautiful eyes, man, you have beautiful eyes. Like that. You know what I mean? Like just that, like, I don't know. You ever been to New Orleans? You guys ever been to New Orleans?
Yeah, I
I
have.
haven't, no.
You know, in New Orleans, like you go to those restaurants and they got like the older black ladies that's like, hey, baby, like, baby, come on. Like, they make you feel so welcoming. Like, it feels like a big ass, like, church hug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to be more like that. You know what I mean? Those are the people that are like the ones that you admire. So if I can be a little bit like that and still like have success and bring the art to another level, then that's what I'm concerned.
There's so much importance, I think, to that just as a concept
Yeah.
of spreading more kindness. Like, even when you're walking around the great city of Philadelphia, really any city, really anywhere, you see people and you're like, are you okay? Or like, what's going on? Something's not right. You seem like you're having, like, for no reason. I'm like leaving a parking lot after going to the grocery store the other day, and I'm like so insanely confused. It was one where it was all one way situation. And I'm like, I've never been to this parking lot before. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to try to get myself out of here. So I successfully am making my way out. And this man, I like go to wait, friendly thing to do. I'm like, thank you, sir, for letting me out. This man like throws his hands in the air at me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm lost. I don't know. But you see, I think there's so much to the climate of the world that we're living in right now as a whole, where things seem very uncertain, and kindness makes the craziest difference. You don't know what kind of day that person was having that you just, you're getting coffee and you're behind them, you complimented what they were wearing.
Right. Right.
To me,
Yeah. I'm
it's
watching
huge.
that. Yeah, watching that interaction, like when you do that too, it'll make you keep doing it. Now we do live in Philly, so you might just get a big fuck you for no reason, whatever. So that you
Right,
know what I mean?
right.
Like
That's
we
exactly what
very
it
much,
is. That's exactly
yeah,
what it is. It's to the whole Northeast. Cause I went to
Yeah,
San Diego
fair.
a couple weeks ago. Totally different vibe. Man, people are
yeah,
walking around saying hello, good morning, and I'm
Go
just like,
birds.
go birds, because there's a ton of Eagles fans out there as well. And my best friend and I are just looking at each other like, what is wrong with these people? Why are they so nice? Why are they saying good morning, hello? But like we figure it out is the weather. 70 plus every single day, sunshine every
It's
single
true.
day. He's gonna be in a happier mood. As soon as we came back to Philly, it was cloudy, dark, and cold. Everyone was miserable. Is I believe that is totally due to the weather. I think everyone is
it's
staying outside, everyone's having a good time.
it's that and it's history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people that were building America were like the tough as nail slash criminal people from Europe that came in, and if they were the ones that held it down in the Northeast, and everybody else made everybody else go to out west, yeah, it was a cutthroat thing. You know what I mean? It was a very very cutthroat thing. So you just had to be a little bit tougher as an East Coaster. Uh, I love the. Have you guys ever heard about like what it's like to get a flat tire on the East Coast versus the West Coast? West Coast. This is one of my favorite sayings.
I'm scared
So,
though.
so they say you get a flat tire and you're in California, and they go, oh my gosh, oh, I'm so sorry that you got that flat tire. I really, really, really hope that you find your way to fix it and get on the right path, and you smile throughout the rest of the day. And if you get a flat tire in Philly, they're like, you fucking idiot, you hit the fucking pothole, but they're helping you change the tire. You know what I mean? They're like they're right
That's
there to
real.
like they're getting their hands dirty, they're rolling up their sleeves You know what I mean? That's the kind of brotherly love that we're talking about, right? It's like your brother, let's say your brother, your sister, you know what I mean, they mess up. You're gonna help them. You're gonna be like, you fucking idiot, but like, you're gonna help them through it.
Yeah.
I love that analogy because with all my time on the East Coast and West Coast, I'm like, that's exactly what it is. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, and I prefer the helping hand with the berating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because but I'm also not sensitive, you know what I mean? So like if I was sensitive to that, then maybe, it'd be a different thing. We're definitely like a mind your own business type of place. Uh in Philly. But
100%.
Oh yeah.
hey, like I'm gonna give out my compliments either way. I'm gonna try and help with your bags. I don't care. You know what I mean? We gotta just dish it out as much as we can. Like you said, there's a lot of the state of the country is like really the energy is messed up right now.
Yeah.
That everybody's just so against each other, and we're operating on this weird fear and worry frequency that is kind of like the worst frequency to operate on. Combating that with kindness and togetherness and we got this
Hmm.
type of stuff, you know what I mean, it can go a long way. And sometimes that's just being like, you know what, I like your jacket. Might do it. Might do the trick.
Yeah. I think that just speaks to the power of unity. Finding something to unify over, which honestly we're speaking about as far as the art, too.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how you're making people feel going through a bad breakup, you're putting on that breakup song. So the same thing. It's just finding ways to unify. And you never know. It could be I always it's like if it's a person that I want to compliment or I see something in, like doesn't matter who it is. But it sometimes it'll be the elderly. Sometimes it's like a small child, but like to see the way that it affects them,
Mhm.
and my hope is always like maybe they were having a shitty day, but like maybe this picked it up. And maybe it started like, I'm big on spirituality and my religion as well, and all of the energy conversation that we've had in this conversation. Like I think there's something to be said about you start it and you kick it off. It's almost like a domino effect. So like if I can start something good from myself that goes out to somebody else, maybe it's going to be paid forward. Maybe we can put more goodness out there.
Yeah, the butterfly effect for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That was something.
Wow.
Yeah, that was something that was brought up. I think the last episode that we had, the butterfly effect.
Man, we were just talking about that one
Yeah.
too.
So
Look at this deja
I
vu.
know.
I'm good, man. You guys are doing something right. If everybody's talking about energy, is you're doing the right thing for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was an incredible conversation too. And we went all over the place. I feel like I want to have some of these dreams that you're having. I want to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and just have dreamt an entire movie. I've never
Maybe.
had that happen.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't remember my dreams though. So I don't know that I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be humming the theme song
Yeah, no, that was crazy. Like that was crazy even for me, where I was just like, what? Like, okay, whatever. And if you hear it, it
immediately.
sounds like the rantings of a madman for sure.
I mean, it's fine. It only has to make sense to you until
Yeah.
you translate it to your medium, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I guess that's what matters.
I love that. Who who's Mason outside of the music though? Like what do you do outside of when you're not creating?
Uh, I I play Fortnite. Let me say that, right? Which is a funny thing. I was just saying earlier, I was just like, every time I tell people I play Fortnite, they're like, "You do?" And they're shocked by it. Yeah. And I was just like telling my friend who knows that I play Fortnite, like people don't know. I'm like, man. So I really am. I'm usually working on art or I'm like daily routine is like wake up, pray, meditate, work out. I play pickleball a lot too.
Yes, yes,
Um,
I love pickleball. I'm not very good at it, but I love it.
I'm obsessed. I've been playing since June. I can't stop playing now. I play like as
Yeah.
much as I possibly can. The weather's finally breaking, so I'll be able to play
Mhm.
more. And then, I spent some time with my nieces and nephews. I have a lot of nieces. I have no children, and I have 19 nieces and nephews.
Damn.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know what I mean? I love spending time with them. I love getting like that perspective, from the kids. But, uh, and then I'm consuming art. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to see St. John this weekend.
Dope.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to check that concert out this weekend.
I
And
love
then and then I got the next concert I'm seeing is like Goldie Botelier. I don't know if you know her. She's like a kind of a country, she's like a pop country artist. Um, and so like I like to see concerts, movies, stuff like that. Um, I'm not super interesting, you know what I mean? So
We would
I fit a
beg
couple
to
of parties in.
differ.
I definitely fit a couple of parties in there. But, for the most part, that's it.
I mean, perfect place for us to wrap it up. If we can get one more question there, we love to always end with this one. We think it's really interesting. It's kind of a two-parter. So, on one side, what's one piece of advice if somebody who's listening right now wants to get to where you are, follow kind of your path? What is one good piece of advice that you would give them? And then on the flip side of that, what's a piece of advice that maybe you heard somewhere or somebody gave to you that you do not recommend people take?
First thing is writers write. You are not a writer if you're not writing. Write, 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 write. Just write. Don't worry about it being good. Just write. If you're an artist and you're not making art, you are not an artist. You have to make the art. There's no way around it. Do it as much as you can because, like, you know, uh, basketball players are going to concentrate and they're going to take their shots and everything, but they got to be able to run. If they can't run, they're not even going to be able to get to the point where they can play in the league to get set up for a shot. So all of the bad parts, figure out your kinks. That all comes through doing it daily. So whatever it is that you're doing, if you identify with something, like you say, I'm a writer, or I'm an artist, make sure you're doing that task. As far as bad advice I've got,
Always a tricky one.
yeah.
It trips people up a lot.
it is. The thing is, I've gotten a lot of bad advice, but I feel like what would be the most helpful? Do it all yourself. That's the worst advice, I think. I think a lot of the times, actually, every person I ever seen preach "do it all yourself," they walk that shit back. Like everybody, like Russ used to be on
Yeah.
that like really hard. Like you got to do it all yourself. Just do everything. You do it yourself. You can't. You really can't. And if you have success doing it all yourself, you're going to hit a roadblock, and you're gonna find out that you just can't. So I think that's probably the absolute worst advice is like when people are like, do it, do it all yourself. You can't do it all yourself. I applaud people that do as much as they can on their own. Uh, but you can't do it all yourself. Find your tribe. Find your tribe of people, and 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 even if it's for a lifetime or a season, do your best to add value to the people around you, and they will surely add value.
That's the truth. Takes a village
Yeah, always.
at the end of the day. Well, thank you so, so much for your time, for sitting down and chatting with us. It was super insightful. And we would absolutely love if you could share with the people anything you want to promote, where they can find you to stay up to date with you.
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, M11SON. You'll see a bunch of updates then. I have a new event coming up on April 18th. It's called Sacred Shuffle. It's gonna be a lot of DJs, vocalists, warehouse vibes. You guys are welcome to come. Just hit me up. Let me know if you wanna come through. It's
Awesome.
gonna be like an all night party, like 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. We don't have enough parties like this one. A lot of like surprises, gifts, and libations flowing, great music, all different kinds of genres. It's just gonna feel like, like a festival after party going right.
Sweet. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah, come up for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're there.
All right, yeah.
Thank you so much, Mason. It was
Yeah,
a
thank you
pleasure
guys.
talking to you.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.